The beauty of the mining industry lies in our ability to explore our world through the eyes of our industry leaders. Today's guest is a true embodiment of what it means to wear multiple hats with grace and excellence, both in our professional and personal lives. Nozipho Dlamini is a multifaceted leader in the mining industry. She is a mine manager, a devoted mother of 4, and a loving wife. With a background in mining engineering and a master's degree in engineering, Nozipho brings a wealth of technical expertise to the table. Her Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt certification underscores her dedication to operational excellence. Nozipho made history as the first female president of the South African Colliery Managers Association and currently sits on the University of Pretoria's Convocation Advisory Board. Her outstanding contributions were recognized when she was named one of the 2022 Mail and Guardian 200 Young South Africans. Nozipho, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Tochi. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Look, I look at your life, right, and do some reflection. It does not add up. You are a mother of 4. You are a mine manager. You sit in boards. You're a student. You were the past president of SACMA.
Yeah.
Where do you get time? How do you find time to do all these important things, particularly because they demand your attention?
Sure, you start with a difficult question. You make time.
Yeah.
You make time,
Yeah.
and that also means there has to be certain sacrifices and things you can't do. But I think I managed to find the right balance to be able to handle all the different hats that I wear. So as an example, Monday to Friday, you're fully present at work. You do your long hours at work, but I also try to have quality time after work with the kids. And how I get that quality time with the kids, it means I cannot come home and start cleaning up and start preparing meals, as an example. So that's stuff that I would typically do in bulk over weekends, but I also have help.
Yeah.
And it's important that you have help, particularly in our careers that demand a lot out of you, that you cannot also be a full-time homemaker in the process. So I've got a lot of help at home. And I've also got a very hands-on husband who does not put all home duties on my shoulders as well. So when I get home, literally it's dishing up, and then we all sit together as a family and we eat, and that allows the quality time. I also try to, exercise and do what I need to do for my mental health as well. I think with the boards, particularly I sit at the University of Pretoria School of Mining Board, and I sat on the Convocation Board. And, those meetings come few and far in between. You just prepare for them when it's time to have those sessions. But yeah, you find time. I don't watch a lot of TV. And I've managed to also learn to multitask. So part of my commute to work is also my reading time and my meditation time and catching up on podcasts. So it's learning time for me. So you find a way to balance all these things that you want to do.
It, for sure. And you might not know this, but I've got 2 products that were gifted to me from a friend of mine, which is the entrepreneurial work you do. And it's the scented candles. The design is amazing. The scent is beautiful. And I also look at how you parent your children. You've got 4 children, and you've got this habit, because you do share your life publicly, where you do one-on-ones with them and you spend quality time to get the best out of them. How important is it to you to not just take on roles, but to do them so excellently?
Sure, I don't know if I'm doing them excellently. My candles are definitely struggling now because I'm not getting enough time to do them. But I also learn, if you make them in bulk, then you're able to just package when someone needs something. Funny story about the candles, it was my COVID hobby, when all of us were locked down at home. And I started making vases. And I'm like, what am I going to put in these vases? And then I learned candle making on YouTube. So that's how it started. The one-on-ones with the kids, particularly when you have a lot of kids, is that if you try to parent them in a group setting, it does not work. Everyone's shouting for your attention, and you can never give each kid enough time that they need. So we try on weekends to do one-on-ones. My husband does one-on-ones. I do one-on-ones. So when he's out with the boys playing golf, I'll do something with the girls, or I'll take my oldest son out for a coffee and we talk if we need to, or my middle son, the twins I still take in a
bulk.
group, in bulk, like literally in bulk.
Yes.
So we do our weekend shopping and they love it. They love it. They're like, Mommy, when are we going shopping?
Yeah.
But it's important for me as well because then I'm able to find out what's happening in their lives and really catch up with what's happening in their lives. Because in a group format, it's like, we call it piranha hour. You know, when you get home, that first hour and everyone wants a bit of you and everyone just wants to shout over the other person. So when you do one-on-ones, at least it's podcast vibe, with each of them. So we like that.
You did touch a bit on the sacrifices you've got to make, and I just want you to really break that down. I mean, for sure, something has to give. So what are the personal sacrifices you had to make? What are the trade-offs that you had to do? And really, how do you find a sense of personal identity beyond the roles that you take?
You do, yeah. Look, I think some of the trade-offs, as an example, there's certain work I would not do because of location, as an example, because I'm adamant about wanting to be home every evening. Sure. So there's certain jobs I would not take in certain provinces because it's great roles. I mean, it's a growth in your career, but because it takes you away from your family, then it's not something that I would even consider. So those would be the mega sacrifices. But some of the minor ones is, I don't have TV time, as an example. And sometimes looking at trying to exercise, and which is good for your mental health and overall development, then it means I don't have family time if I go out for a solo 5-kilometer run, as an example. And the sacrifice, like this morning, I had to do it at 4 a.m. because I had to be here.
Yeah. Oh.
So that's some of the trade-offs that you do. Is like, is it sleep time or do I want to get my 5K so I'm in my best when I have to go for the podcast? So it's those sacrifices. So there's mega ones. Particularly for me, it's geographic. It's kind of jobs I take, what those jobs entail. The kind of people I would work for, whether it matches my lifestyle and the work I want to do. And then there's the daily minor ones. Like, do I spend time with my child now or do I go package a candle order? Yeah. That's how I say my candle business is struggling because everything else in my life right now is more important.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like you do what you do the way you do it because you represent a wider community of women? Do you ever feel the pressure to not fail?
Look, I think we'll always feel that pressure probably for the next, 20, 40, 30 years. I still feel like I represent all women. So my mistakes are, I'm representing.
It's not she failed, it's they.
It's they. It's like that. And I have to, it's unfair, but I need to take that responsibility as well. So my decisions, how I plan my life and how I show up, unfortunately, particularly in the professional environment, represents the gender. Yeah. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. If they say you're the first female president of SACMA, it's not just me, it's all of you guys that I need to represent. So I have a responsibility to do that role excellently so that it opens doors for more women coming in. So, I feel the pressure constantly. And I feel times when I'm for a female boss as well, it's almost like it's not just a job. It's we need to make this work. Yeah. We both have to be successful here. I need to make you look good because it's not just about yourself. It's about all women. So I almost have this unnatural loyalty to female leaders as well because it's like we've got to do this. It's about all of us. I remember my husband used to be very jealous of my boss at Sasol, Asanda, because the phone would ring once and what do you need, boss? So it's like, what is this, But I'm like, it's about the gender. It's about all of us. It's not just, you're representing everybody and we need to be successful in the roles that we take on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Does it get overwhelming?
I think it did initially, but I mean, I'm 15 years into my career now. So you learn to have grace for yourself. So it does, I don't think the pressure gets lesser. It's just that you learn to have grace for yourself. And you find ways to be your best so that you can take on all these pressures as well. So things like exercise, meditation, my solo time that I get to be able to reflect, I think that allows me to process my day well and I don't feel the pressure as much as I used to initially in my career. But I think most of it is just having grace for yourself. Like you're not superhuman.
Things will not always go your way.
Yeah, they hardly do. They hardly do. I know. I don't know if we make it seem perfect,
Yeah.
but things hardly go your way. And also, it's about, did I get the result? Kind of like the result I wanted. It may not be perfectly the result you wanted, but it may be a step towards, the greater good.
But I like the fact that you say you just have to apply grace to yourself.
You have to.
Because nobody is coming to save you.
No. And no one is going to say how you did well.
Oh,
So you
it's
just have
okay.
to, oh, it's okay. You just have to say, look, I tried the best I could.
Yeah.
This result is not maybe 100% what I wanted, but it gets me a lot closer to what I
try next
want.
time, yeah.
We'll try again. And yeah, you try next time. Every single morning when you're going to work, you're like,
Let's look at your journey as a miner.
Sure.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge, particularly as a female miner?
sure, that's a difficult one.
Yeah.
As a female, look, mining is difficult in a sense that, especially when we enter the mining industry, we're very young. I remember I was a miner at age 21 and I was leading a team of average age was maybe 40 to 50.
Sure.
And yeah, every single role you take on after that, you need to operate at a different level. So now I'm in a management or leadership position.
Sure.
I need to operate also in that role. So the first few months when I take on a new role, it's the difficult things is getting yourself up to speed technically with that specific role, but also trying to balance the culture,
Yes.
the political elements,
The people skills.
the
yeah.
people skills.
Yeah.
I think also years of experience makes that process and that learning process a lot better and a lot faster. But every single role you'll take on will come with its own new set of challenges. Management and leadership comes with its own issues.
Yeah.
When you're a miner, it comes with its own set of issues as well. So again, the grace is applied on yourself as well to say you are learning. I always say if I'm on a roll, the first half of it is a learning curve, and then the last half, that's when you're excelling, you are mastering the skills,
And that's when you move to the next level.
then you
where
move to, then you start again. Then you start again. And that's it. It's just doing that iteratively and learning faster, growing faster through the process.
You are now in a senior role at the mines. What would you say is the greatest reward of leading a mining operation?
Look, and I always say, there's the story about the stone cutter.
Okay.
They ask a guy who's busy chipping away at a stone, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just chipping the stone. And then they ask the next guy, what are you doing? Oh, I'm building a window with this stone. And then the next guy they ask is like, no, I'm building a cathedral. And his part is just a window, but actually he sees it in a bigger picture. I love that our industry gives so much to the communities.
Yes.
And it's not just cutting coal. You know that 1% of your revenue goes towards the community, and you see the impact that it has on the community as well. So that's the overarching belief that what I do impacts the local community. It impacts people's livelihoods. I mean, people are employed. We have thousands of employees and their lives are being impacted, and you need to keep this operation profitable and you need to keep it going for them and their kids. They say on average we support 11 people in our lives. So it's not just the 1,000 you've employed, but it's the 11,000 that are being enriched through this person's employment. So, and keeping people safe. I mean, we will, touch wood, be celebrating 200 days scratch free, like not a single
even,
scratch on a single human being, and 11,000 fatality free production shifts.
Amazing.
I mean, that's an amazing feat.
Amazing,
and knowing that the work that you do goes a lot into ensuring that people are returning to their families safely.
Sure.
So for me, that's some of the things that inspire me on a day-to-day basis to keep going. It's the local communities, it's the employees we have within our our mine and their families as well that are being impacted by me doing my job well. Yeah.
Another aspect, Nozipho, is that you don't knock off.
Oh, no,
You don't knock off. I mean, it's good and well, you can serve your 9-10 hours at work, but immediately you get home. You get calls, people want your take on something, you need to be updated. What's your reflection on that part of what we get to do?
Is that not why we get paid the big bucks? I don't look. It's part of it. I mean, it's a legal
Yeah,
appointment. Your
yeah.
legal appointment is the running of this operation and ensuring people are safe and procedures are being followed. So it's part of the job. You don't knock off. You're right. I mean, at 3 when I arrived here, I was still checking the
Yes.
WhatsApps and checking our dashboards to make sure that everything is still going okay.
Sure.
It's part of the job. That's why we are in these jobs. That's why
Yeah.
we earn the money that we do. Always have to be on, and I think after hours, that's where you need to find the balance between that and your family time as
Yeah.
well, and where the element of a supportive spouse also comes in, because when a certain call comes in, he knows he needs to quickly take over
Yeah.
with the kids because this looks important.
Sure.
I found myself answering the call in my wardrobe, like
Yeah.
making sure that everything at the mine is still okay. So it's part of the job.
Tell me how, when you get a call that is a landline and and it's definitely a call from the mine.
Yeah.
What's going on in your mind? How is your heart rate?
I think the guys know now. Start with a WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay.
So you can land safe.
So I can land safely into this thing. Because if it's a call, then it's like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
So I think WhatsApp is such a great tool as well, because if it's softer stuff, they can land it on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Then I know that when that call comes, then it's something that's definitely serious. And God's grace and doing the right things, you get very few of those difficult calls. Yeah. So I think we just need to keep doing the right things to ensure that the guys underground are being safe at all times and they're doing the right things. Then those calls don't get as hectic. I used to have a former manager when I was a younger graduate, and he used to say, if your stuff is right,
Don't expect it.
it's expect a call. And also, if you left something not right, you know that when you get a call, you should almost be able to pinpoint where the issue is, because your systems are so tight and you know exactly what's happening in your area. So if it's a belt torn, you know which belt it would be, because you know what each of your belts looks like and what's the quality of the joints. So you just need to make sure that during your 9 hours, 10 hours that you're at the mine, you do everything so well. Get those calls, look, it's a fluke or,
Look, you sit in boardrooms, you make really tough decisions. Do you ever feel intimidated and doubted? And do you also just doubt yourself sometimes?
No.
Wow. Wow.
Look, I understand the responsibility of being in these big spaces.
Yeah.
But I think technically I've also managed to, and I mean, we overcompensate with our education, right? Because we also don't want to be caught where you are technically not as astute as you need to be. So I've tried with my education background to ensure that all technical bases are being covered. So I've got a master's in engineering. I've got a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification, which allows me to think process flows and improvements. I've got a couple of sustainability qualifications as well through Yale School and also Cambridge. So technically, I know that I have a lot to offer in every room that I get into. And that's the work you have to do to say, if you find yourself in a room where you feel you are inadequate, it may mean that you did not do the work or get yourself ready to be in that room. So I try to pre-board some of these things where if I'm getting into a certain board, I need to understand what are the requirements, what are the responsibilities of this job, what are those technical skills that I'll need to sharpen up to ensure that I can offer valuable input into that specific board that I sit in.
And just thinking about it as well, the ground experience also is invaluable. I think it just gives you the edge.
No, it does.
And
really
it's tough
does.
to get it. The process is difficult.
And long.
Yeah.
And I think for females, it tends to be even longer. You tend to mine longer, you shift boss longer, you mine oversee longer, because you need to be tested to ensure that you can do that job well. But overall, and at the end of the day, all that experience helps you. All that experience definitely helps you. And when I took my rotation into technical services, because I spent a number of years in technical services, I have a better understanding of all the technical elements that support a mine. So surveying, geology, rock engineering, environmental permitting, environmental compliance, VOHI. So you tend to be fully conversant with all that it takes to run a successful mine. you're not just doing one thing in
Yeah.
your career and you're not able to converse in other elements of running a mine. So I don't get as easily intimidated anymore. I do the work. I try to ensure that I'm ready for every role that I take on.
Amazing. What are the two things that you think women in leadership and those pursuing leadership roles should know and uphold, especially in male-dominated spaces?
Look, the first one is definitely the technical expertise.
Sure.
You need to make sure that you are ready for every role that you take. Well, maybe not make sure you are ready. Sometimes we get offered the role and you take it.
Yeah.
But then try to make that learning process as fast as possible to ensure that you get yourself up to speed with what's happening in that role.
Yeah.
I would also encourage, and Sheryl Sandberg talks about this, to say it's not a career ladder, it's a career jungle gym.
Yeah.
So try to do as many things as possible, because through different things, you learn different sets of skills. Like I said, sustainability qualifications. I like podcasts. I learn a lot from podcasts. Harvard's Business Review podcasts, Women in Engineering podcasts, Lean Six Sigma podcasts, because you're learning certain skills as you do that. So try to approach your career as a jungle gym. Try to learn as much as possible. But also then stay true to yourself in all that you do.
Yeah.
Be your authentic self, because I think it does us a disservice when you are not yourself, because we all have to live up to this unrealistic expectation and standard. So be your imperfect self as you do the roles. If you make a mistake, own up to that mistake, apologize. I've stood in front of my teams and apologized.
Yeah.
And you need to be very brave to be able to do something like that. You make a mistake with a bonus calculation, you have to go and stand there and apologize and make it right.
Yeah.
And if I was pretending to be somebody else, probably I wouldn't have the bravery to be able to do that. So if I mess up, I mess up. I make it right and I apologize, and that's it. Yeah.
When you've missed the mark,
Yes.
we don't.
Which happens often.
Yeah. We don't get things 100%, and you feel like, I've said something I shouldn't have said. I made a really bad decision. How do you deal with that?
Sure. Look, also, as I've grown in my career, because you make a lot of mistakes.
Standard.
It's standard. In a couple of times a day, you make a number of mistakes. So have grace for yourself. We're all learning human beings. I think that's the first part, is we are all learning. But also with that is, if you've made a mistake, own up to it.
Yeah.
Definitely reflect on what went wrong, where you need to fix, and make sure you do that. And also apologize if you need to apologize, but find a way to make that right. It's just be authentic and be graceful.
Sure. What's the one thing that was said to you throughout your career that really hurt you? And how did you deal with that?
Look, a lot has been said.
Yeah.
But also I feel I cannot let those be a reflection of myself. It's through their eyes and their observation. I think, as an example, when I was in matric and we visited the specific company as young bursary candidates, I sat in a table with one of the senior executives, and he said to me, "So you've chosen to not have what other women want." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, there's no way you can have a career and also have what other women want, which is a family. And I remember I was a matriculant. I was like, I had not even thought about ever having kids or a husband, but now he's planted the seed in my head to say I cannot be that. And obviously I've proved that wrong. Sure, there's a lot of things that I remember. This is after I got my master's and my MMC, and I had a black belt certification. And then someone says, "Do you feel like you are where you are because you're a woman?" I'm like, "Have you seen my credentials? Have you read my CV? Have you seen my experience?" So a lot of times I feel people say hurtful things, not because they actually know what's happening in your life or it's a true reflection on you, but more it's through their lens and how they see the world. So you also can't take that personally as well. And that's where the grace comes in. It's like when someone says something hurtful to you, it's probably a reflection on them and of them and not necessarily you. So I know my truth. I know where I am and how I got there and the work I've had to do to get there. So I don't let hurtful things really
Like that,
hurt me.
Yeah, and you've started this conversation that I really want you to expand on, and that's the issue of your career and family. So when you started out in your career and also wanted to start your family, and that's, marriage and family, did you ever feel like holding back, thinking that this might stall your career? And Nozipho, I'm asking this because there's a lot of young people who are stepping into their careers and they want to have children, they want to get married, but they feel like, this is going to delay my career. Just maybe reflect on that, looking at your decisions and your life in that season.
Yeah. So if there's actually studies that have been done in this area to say it's not a gender wage gap, it's a mom wage gap.
Sure.
Because when you start having kids, as an example, you and a hypothetical male candidate, let's call him John, would have started working at the same time. Then at some stage, you get pregnant. You want to start a family, you get pregnant. In that time, in that 9 months that you are no longer going underground, what happens? You're certainly not up for positions.
No.
No one is making you a mine overseer while you are pregnant. Ne? And John is busy, he's getting his MMC, he's getting that mine overseer. You are now taking your 9 months. You come back, and certain companies have got policies that says if you've been away from the workplace for 6 months, when pay increases come, they'll keep yours at inflation. It's like neutral. It's a neutral performance. It's not you don't get that extra percentage that everybody gets. Now imagine if you're going to do that 2-3 times in your career where you stop to have kids. You will not be considered for positions while you are pregnant, while you are back, but you still, maybe on flexi time because you're breastfeeding or whatever the case. You're certainly going to be an N a couple of times in your career as well. Yeah, some call it too soon to rate. So you don't get rated on performance because you have there. And then at the end of 10 years, you and John, you have 3 kids. John will certainly be a GM probably by then. And you're still trying to put mine overseer. So it's not so it's an interesting study that was done. There's a good episode I've seen about it on a podcast where it says it's not a gender wage gap, it's a mom wage gap. For me, I think that's also been the case. But also I know that that's the sacrifices I've had to make because I wanted to start a family. But I think there's also a lot of planning around when I said I wanted to start a family. So as an example, I said with my first son, I want to have done my master's and already have my MMC. And I got my MMC, and then I had my son. And you look at the jobs that you are doing at the time. I was a Lean Six Sigma black belt in training when I had my first son because I couldn't be a mine overseer and trying to start a family at the same time. So I've had to do like actual family planning to ensure that it aligns with specific roles and certain experience I would have wanted to have at a time when I go back and I try to have another child. So it can be unplanned. It cannot be haphazard. And that's part of the job. And I feel like it's a responsibility you have to take as well to say, I'm also responsible to the company and at the same time trying to balance my personal life. So those things but I think something that's interesting is I almost plan it to even what job I want to be doing when I can't go underground for 9 months.
Amazing.
I remember at one of the mines when I was expecting my second son there was a lot of safety systems that were not in place. And I almost had this project plan to say, okay, my GM, this is the things I want to do in the 9 months that I'm sitting on surface and I cannot go on maternity leave. These are the COPs I would like to have done for you. And so you need to plan it like that so that you are still valuable and impactful during the time that you may not be in an operational role or able to go underground. So, and you have that responsibility. There's certain projects you can run, impactful, stuff.
Not administrative.
Not administrative.
Copies. No. And I think it's good to mention that because sometimes if you don't have a plan, somebody's got a plan for you.
Yeah, someone will have a plan.
And somebody needs tea. And a couple of copies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So no, you definitely have to have a plan. I had a project plan of like, these are the COPs we need to review. This is the work we need to do. Yeah. I had it to the T. Yeah. And I was like, my maternity leave will start on this specific day and I would have finished. And I complied to that.
And I think even when you come back, you become that go-to person that somebody has been eyeing and they can't wait for you to get to put you in a position. I think it's an important consideration.
No, they can't wait to have you back. As soon as you're back, they're like, You know, become someone that gets stuff done.
Come on.
Finish it, sign it off, hand it over. It's almost like, you know, by the time you go on maternity leave, you know that I was still like finalizing things when I was at the hospital. Like, let me just quickly email this, make sure that this person has got this. You need to take that responsibility.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes people ask if you can have it all. Do you have it all? And look, all is subjective. Your all is not my all.
Yes.
So do you have your all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I do. I have a happy family.
Yeah.
I have a loving marriage with my husband, and for me, that's my all, right? Is that my home life needs to be optimal, and I have that at home. Do I believe my career could be a lot further? Possibly.
Yeah.
But also I know that the work I'm doing now also allows me to have a great family life as well.
Sure.
So my all is a place of harmonious juggling, because it can be a harmonious balance. It's that of a harmonious juggling. Yeah. And right now I'm in a good place. You know, my marriage is healthy. My kids still like me. Still want to spend time with me. I'm able to exercise. I'm able to do things that feed my soul. I'm able to read books. So, but it's like what you say, what's your all?
Yeah.
You know, I may not have all the material things I would love to have, but I definitely have the emotional things that I would love to have.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people who want to achieve a similar level of success in multiple domains?
In multiple domains. I think don't limit yourself. Sure. Humans are limitless, and we grow to the capacity that's demanded of us. If you have creative endeavors, pursue them. If you have podcast endeavors, pursue them, because you can wear multiple hats at the same time. And this was always a dilemma in mining, where the only way you were seen as someone that was committed to their job is if you lived for your job and you had no other interests outside of your job. And I'm not talking about 10 years ago. I'm talking about even 2 years ago, where your commitment to your work still gets questioned because you sit on too many boards or you do too much.
Yeah.
But don't limit yourself, because the different skills that you gain through doing different things actually help you to become a more holistic, not only human being, but a better leader.
Yeah.
Because a better leader has an appreciation for the creatives, for design, for being able to communicate and speak to people and have the same curiosity that a podcaster would have for people. That's all part of your leadership journey. So don't limit yourself because of people's stereotypical views of what a mining engineer or what a mining person should do. I would definitely suggest that you take on different roles as you're growing in your career, because those different roles also help you to become a holistic GM in the future, executive in the future. Your values, your personal values are also important. For me, it's a healthy family life. So take on roles that you believe will also allow you to be able to have that. Because once that falls apart, and that's with values, once that value is not in place, everything else suffers and it falls apart. So hold the things that you value, prioritize them, put time and effort to ensure that they are as optimal as possible. And then everything else in your life just trickles and aligns with that success as well. So that would be my advice.
Sure, Nozipho, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I think my life is impacted. It really has been an honor to have this sit down with you, and I really hope that your journey inspires so many men and women across different disciplines. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was great. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah. The art of pursuing your desires lies entirely in your willpower, and there's absolutely no limit to what you can achieve. I hope this episode has inspired you to head on and pursue your all. Thanks for watching. Goodbye and God bless.